again, I see both sides of the fence. I think it's more of a knock at what the league has done to the combine. Like if it were the old combine, I think everybody would show up.
JAKIB Media YouTube channel, Mega Mac Guys. That would be John McMullen and Jody McDonald. And I know my partner is quasi glad to be here with me, but he's also a little bummed to not be in Indianapolis where the NFL meat market, come on, let's be honest, that's exactly what it is. It's a meat market between collegiate football players who want to continue their playing career and the 32 National Football League teams. A little bummed that you're not out in Indy, huh, McMullen?
Yeah, a little bit bummed for reasons I cannot speak of on the air, but I'm not the only one, evidently, because I wake up this morning. Well, I knew Sean McVay wasn't going, and people say, "Well, the Rams don't have any picks anyway." But that harkens back to 2020, what year? Yeah, 2020, the last year we had the combine. He didn't go either. Um, and now Kyle Shanahan's not going. Robert Saleh's not going. Um, these are head coaches in the National Football League, and they're not going to the combine, which tells you the combine ain't what it used to be, at least to some teams and some organizations.
No, I would disagree with those teams and disagree with what you kind of hedged at with there. Oh, you don't have any top picks. They traded all their picks. They were all in this year. Oh, then that means those fourth round picks, fifth round picks, sixth round picks are even that much more important to a team like the Rams. You can't afford to miss on those. If you're giving up your ones, your twos, your threes to add veterans and multiple picks for one player, you still need to fill out a roster. And the Rams,
Well,
the
you
last
do,
couple of
yeah.
years, have been pretty damn good at late day two, all day three picks. They've been able to pick guys, not star players, but guys who step in and play for them and help on both offense and defense. So give credit to Snead, their general manager, and their entire scouting staff. If John McVay's the smartest guy to enter the room in
Well, be
years,
careful, Jody, because you don't want to be banned from the NFL if you want to say anything else. But I will say, I remember Sean talking about it a couple of years ago, and he just said, "Look, I think our time is better spent in the facility. I think we can get more accomplished in the facility." It wasn't just like he's lazy and not going. He's one of those guys. Now, right or wrong, and you bring up the Rams have been very good at the bottom of the draft, and generally that's where this would help you because a lot of the top guys aren't going to work out because
right?
they don't have to work out and they can wait for their pro days and be comfortable because they have their cachet. Evan Neal, potential number one overall pick. He's waiting for Alabama's pro day, and he can do that because it's not like people are going to overlook him, and he can do it in a more comfortable environment. But if you're a fourth or a fifth or sixth round pick, you pretty much got to show your wares. And we're going to have Paul Domowitch on this morning. He did a great piece for the 33rd team about has the combine outlived its usefulness, basically. And I think that's apropos considering how we start the show. But one of the things he mentioned, and Daniel Jeremiah mentioned, well, it's still good to see those middle round picks and to see them on the same field, to see them in the same environment, to see them up against each other. Teams like the Rams are thinking a little bit differently. I don't know who's right. I do know when they started this thing, it was about the medical evaluations. And to me, the other stuff is like more, this whole industry has sort of been created about the NFL draft. And hey, I like it. It's great. It's created jobs. There's people all over the place who cover the draft. But I think it's more important for them than the teams. I really do, except for the medicals, which is the most important part. But obviously, if you're a head coach, you don't have anything to do with the medicals. I mean, that's your medical staff and your medical evaluation and people of that nature and independent doctors as well. So I see both sides of the fence, but clearly the NFL has turned this into a television vehicle. And as they've continued to do that, it has become less and less meaningful for the teams themselves.
All right, let me ask you a question about the team that you and I cover on a daily basis, and that would be your Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to set the over under at 20. How many times Nick Sirianni said this year in a sentence, loves ball?
He loves
20?
20. That's got to
Over
be.
or under? How many times did Nick
Well,
Sirianni say in any passing media session for any reason, either specifically asked for it or he just kind of meandered there to utter the phrase loves
yeah.
ball?
Well, certainly it's way over.
Okay.
It kind of, because he'll say it behind the scenes as well. So I've heard it way over
Right.
20
I'm
times.
only talking about for mass consumption
Yeah.
during
And
media sessions.
it's still got to be over.
Still more than 20, right?
Still got to be over.
All right.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, your head coach is so motivated to use the phrase loves ball, why the hell wouldn't the combine be important? It's a chance for you to showcase your
and
skills,
again,
to be able to go out there and compete against other guys at the same position. Oh, I'd want guys who want to be there at the combine, who want to compete, who want to show off. That if I'm the Eagles and Nick Sirianni is a guy who's going to have to coach these guys up, and he loves guys who love ball, give me the guys who love ball by showing it at the combine.
Well, I will say this, and I'm with you. So I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'd go to the combine. I'd recommend everybody shows up at the combine. And by the way, if you belong at the top of the draft, you're gonna be great at the combine. So I don't, I'm with you in theory. But I am going to play devil's advocate. And from a coaching perspective, and I go to Sean McVay again, obviously, because he's the leader, as he is with most things in this league these days. He would argue that, they're grinding film and doing their work in the facility, and there's less time and uh, the Prime Steakhouse and St. Elmo's Steakhouse, and there's less partying, and they're doing more work, and they're getting more accomplished. That's what he said back in 2020 when he did this for the first time, and he felt that he believed his personnel department could get more done at home than they could do there. Now, again, you could debate it, but that's that. Yeah, I give them. He certainly. I will say this: he's certainly not sloughing off. He's certainly not going to the golf course at 4 o'clock like Steve Spurrier back in the day. He's one of those new age coaches that wears their work ethic like a badge of honor, which I think is, to be honest, I think it's a little bit silly. I don't think you have to work 20 hours a day. I think that leads to burnout. But nonetheless, he's not a guy who's like leaving the office. So again, I see both sides of the fence. I think it's more of a knock at what the league has done to the combine. Like if it were the old combine, I think everybody would show up. I think a certain amount of teams, and they're growing each year. And Damo talked to a lot of agents about this, talked to Joe Banner about this, talked to Jeremiah, as I said. So we'll get him to explain it as well. A lot of people look at this and say, what's going on here? Is this really what it was supposed to be? And my answer to that would be, well, probably not what it was originally supposed to be. It's become more of a television vehicle.
Well, since McVay seems to be the guy that we're basing a lot of judgment on, which I know he's good. I know he's colorful. I know Amazon tried to spirit him away, and he could have made himself a hell of a lot of money, and he did stay committed. So I'll give him that much as far as the coaching aspect goes. He didn't create football. He didn't invent football. I'm not going to. base all my decisions on what
He
does
did.
John McVay say. What WWJS and that's WWMS McVay say. No, I'm sorry, I'm not buying in. I don't care whether we won the Super Bowl or not this year. And if he thinks he can get more done at home, I'm just going to disagree with him. I'm sorry. The better way to put it out there, if I were McVay, is yeah, we lost weeks this year because we were in the Super Bowl. Otherwise, I would have been grinding at the facility the entire month of January. Then that's a reasonable explanation. The fact that we do it better and we work harder at home, I don't believe that. I believe being there, seeing the players, being able to shake somebody's hand, being able to look at a kid who's going to play for you's eyes is more important to me than let me review another round of tape. You can do tape anytime, any place, anywhere. The players are only assembling in a group this large where you can get a look at a lot of guys, shake a lot of hands, make a lot of individual player evaluations in one place. And it's Indianapolis this week. And I think that's a place that every coach in the league should be this week.
Well, I'm going to make this comp in that, when training camps started to shift to home bases rather than people going away a lot, and I'll put myself in this category as well. A lot of people said, "Oh, that doesn't sound like a good idea." But to be honest, and certainly in, today's environment where everything's scaled back, and Doug Peterson was the first to tell me this, it's like it's much better. It's much better staying at home. I mean, you don't have to drag your equipment. You have everything right there. If you have the type of facility, again, and that's where teams like Dallas and Minnesota have this huge advantage over teams like Cincinnati, who doesn't even have a practice bubble. Maybe they should, continue to go somewhere because they don't spend the money, as we often talk about. So, but you see it all in all in all. And Dallas weirdly still goes away, even though they have the best facility in the NFL. So, but when people talk about why do you go away for training camp, they say things like, well, camaraderie. And it's not about football. And that's real because you should develop chemistry and camaraderie and try to be together as a team. But I think overall, teams that have the ability to stay at their own facilities, they all understand, oh yeah, this is a lot better than going to a Spartan college campus, where the players are uncomfortable, not getting the best nutrition, not getting the best health, all that kind of, what. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's the exact comparison, but people looked at that sort of the same way, and now it's become second nature. Oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So my only point being is when you say, yeah, you can look at tape anywhere, that's correct, but you're not leaving, you're not up, you're with your families, you're with your friends, you're able to live your normal life. You don't uproot for a couple days. You don't, again, there's not that pull to go to the bar at night and do all the extracurricular. I can't even say it because it's too early in the morning.
All right. Well, here's where I'll jump in and stop you. If you're so desperate to watch tape, McVay, stay in your room. Go to Indy, shake hands, do what you got to do all day. When they put it to bed at night, stay in your room and watch tape for 6 hours. You don't have to go to whatever steakhouse you want to choose in Indianapolis. If you're there to meet players, and there were players there, and you could continue your evaluation, there might be some value in it. It's not. Let your general manager
I don't
go,
think,
let everybody else
as
go.
the leader of the organization, I don't think it's about him. I think it's about his vision of the organization. But, then, yeah, the leader of the organization does, he's got to lead. He's got to do what he wants to do. And the vast majority of people are still going and still showing up. I'm not saying it's right. Again, I'm playing devil's advocate. You have you have very few, just to talk to these guys in person. And they'll say, well, we'll do it at the pro days and we'll have our top 30 visits and we'll bring people into the facility now that COVID is winding down because there's other issues in the world. It hasn't hurt them. I will say that. So people are going to look at it and say, well, it hasn't hurt them. So are we doing it the right way? I'm just saying, be prepared. Be prepared.
I'm just saying, I know John McVay's got a Super Bowl ring and I don't. But I'm sorry. If I were a head coach in the National Football League, he's where I would want to be there for both their pro days and the combine.
Well, plus
The
they don't want to
combine, let
deal
me
with the
finish,
media
John.
either. They don't want to deal with the media either.
Well,
That's part of it as well.
Except John McVay was ready to jump to Amazon and become Sean McVay was going to become a member of the media. So, oh my God, he's got to deal with the media. Oh, such a hard ass for the Super Bowl winning coach. Yeah, right. Here's why you go to both the combine. If you're a coach, you go both the combine and the pro day. You play now 17 games in the National Football League. On any given year, you're going to play one extra home game or one extra road game. The combine is like playing a road game. It's not the perfect situation. Shoot, they had to fight tooth and nail just to get their nutritionalist in there and their extra coaches in there. And that was ridiculous. But you're not under perfect situations. You're on a field that you don't know. You have that many more rides on you. That's what is like playing on the road in the National Football League. The pro day is in your stadium, at home, your field. You set all the requirements, and that's a home game. And when you get to the NFL, you're going to have to play home games and road games. So why not be able to evaluate someone in both arenas if you're an evaluator, which I consider a head coach of a football team an evaluator? You're damn straight you should be at both.
Yeah, well, my point is I don't think the workouts are that important for teams. They've never been that important for teams. Now, if you completely crap the what, yeah, it can hurt you. Or if you turn into, we always bring up Mike Mamula locally. If you just are so much better than everybody else, it can help you. But the vast majority of players are in between, and the vast majority of evaluation is done off the film, and that's why I say it's more important for that cottage industry that's popped up than it is for the teams themselves. And again, there's a few exceptions. Guys at the outliers, guys who were spectacular. Micah Parsons last year, guys who terrible. But even look at Orlando Brown, who was just dismal at the combine. One of the worst 40 times ever. I think he ended up going third round. He probably there were some people who were talking about him as a late first round pick. Certainly probably would have went the second round, fell a little bit. So, I'm not saying it can't affect you, but it only affects you when you're expected to do something and you're so woefully bad at it that people start asking questions. And then they go back to the film and they say, well, what the hell's going on here? And, that's how it goes. I just think, and I talked to enough people, and we'll probably get Damo and he'll say the same thing. It's not as important as people think it is, the actual workouts for the actual teams. And Chris Landry mentioned that too when we had him on about not last week, but I think the week before. It's just not as important as people think it is.
I think you're right. In the overall evaluation, I don't think it's anything more than a sliver. But to use your Orlando Brown as an example, Ravens took him in the third round. He was a Raven draft, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Maybe,
good player,
just maybe, and you don't know this, I don't know this, maybe they drafted him because Coach Harbaugh had a good session with him at the combine. And despite the fact that he ran as slow as he did and had at least analytically a god-awful combine, maybe he actually impressed somebody with his interview. Maybe he said the right thing. Maybe he opened the coach's eyes with the way he went about the bit. Maybe because he did as badly as he did, but he handled it well after the fact that they said, yeah, I'm going to throw that time out. I'm not even going to look at his 40 because the kid impressed me. That's not happening for the Rams this year because Sean McVay has chosen not to come. I think it's highway robbery.
The Rams will be fine.
Yeah, because they got Aaron Donald. Then come out and say that, McVay. Yeah, I don't have to go because we've got Aaron Donald. Not, I can do that much more work at home. Yeah, we'll be at the office grinding away on tape. Yeah, right. All right, Jody McDonald, John McMullen here with you. Nick Sirianni in the house in Indianapolis. And we'll speak to the members of the media tomorrow, hear what the coach has to say. Haven't heard from him since the end of the season. Certainly looking forward to that. Also looking forward to hear from our first guest. He joins us next. You're catching his work these days in Philly Mag and the 33rdteam.com. Our good bud Paul Domwich joins us here on Birds 3.